I also made the case for owning Bitcoin, the quintessence of scarcity premium. Scarcity premium is literally the only large tradable asset in the world that has a known fixed maximum supply. By its design, the total quantity of Bitcoins cannot exceed 21 million.
Bitcoin is the hardest money that has ever been invented.
If you don't have my private key, you cannot spend my Bitcoin, period. And this is the power of Bitcoin.
It's the first time we figured out how to create true property that you can take possession of with full custodial rights.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Talking in Bits, and I'm extremely excited for this episode because if this is not the most creative person I've had on the show, in my opinion, of course, it's definitely up there in the top 5 of the most creative people I've had on the show. I reached out to MADEX a little while ago, a few months ago, and I'm glad that we were finally able to get this conversation going and into play. So without further ado, MADEX, thank you for your time and welcome to the show, good sir.
Hey, man, thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, man, I've the way I got looped into your work is, I'm sure a mutual friend, Fractal Encrypt, I interviewed him on the pod a little while ago. We got into psilocybin, we got into a bunch of shit. But a little bit while after that, we've kind of stayed in touch, and he was like, hey, this MADEX guy, like, he's the truth. You might want to get him on the show. And then that's when the initial early talks of reaching out to you and all that. And here we are today, man. So you come highly spoken for.
Oh, man, that's wonderful. I'm a big fan of Fractal's work, and that's awesome that he recommended me. That's wicked. Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to get right into your artwork because I think it deserves that much attention. And I know when I started the show a few seconds ago, I said you're one of the most creative people that has come on. And I truly mean that because something about your art to me is, man, like, I don't even know it's just so damn unique. Like, there's patterns in other people's artwork that you're like, oh, okay, a time chain, or like, oh, okay, there's like the Bitcoin beat, but yours is like completely out of this world. It's something completely different. So I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think about when it is that you actually sit down and start to do something new? What inspires your work?
Yeah, well, going way back to kind of the beginnings of the project, like I was always artistically inclined, and my goal for creating artwork was just I wanted to do my absolute best to try and make something that didn't exist. And the feedback that I always look for is sort of what you're saying, is that when people see my work, like, the most flattering comments that I hear are like, wow, I've never seen anything like this, or like, this is crazy. Like it's like, when they see it, it looks like MADEX art, and they're discovering it. It doesn't kind of look like an iteration of another artist's work or things like that. And there's like definitely some elements that are similar from different artists, if you're pretty tied into kind of creators over history and even some modern creators. And right now that's coming out quite a lot because I'm trying to develop my script lines, like my MADEX script lines, into I'm just trying to make them as good as possible. And then they're already like quite unique, but I just want to continue to evolve them and just get really my own sort of script graphics. And in the process of doing that, like I've been working my own lines for a long time, and you can kind of see the development of the script elements. But then lately I've been getting really into like there's a lot of Arabic scripture artists. There's a very famous artist known as Retina. A lot of you guys probably seen his work. So I'm in this like pretty fun phase where I'm just trying out all these different scripture styles, and I'm learning how to do them all. And so that I can eventually kind of tie them into the baseline of MADEX, which came entirely on my own, but then like take some elements. So everything's kind of building. But anyway, to your comments, man, that's awesome. That's what you see when you look at stuff. I think that entering into the Bitcoin space was kind of the same reason I got into making big format paintings in the first place, was because when I got my own apartment for the very first time from my family, fortunately, I'm fortunate enough to have learned about the quality goods at a young age and learn about, high end things and mostly like roots from a hard money kind of world where stuff used to be built well. And I have my first apartment, I have blank walls, and I just wanted really awesome artwork on my walls, and all the best artwork I could find that I was the most excited about. It just was way too expensive for me. And even at that, like in some cases, like tens of thousands of dollars, some cases millions of dollars. And in other cases, even like $500 was more than I could afford. So, but I could afford, like some paper and Sharpies. And so I just kind of started figuring it out and trying to make my own stuff and trying to make cool things that I could kind of decorate my place with cost effectively. And then also, I guess it helped me learn a skill. And I'd been artistic like my whole life beforehand. But then coming into the Bitcoin space, like as I got, I was pretty early discovering Bitcoin, but then took a long time to kind of really get into it and become involved in it. And then an even longer time to kind of understand I don't think you can come into the space and just, I know it's trendy right now to be like, oh, I'm a maximalist and Bitcoin only. That's actually there's a lot of content that has to be learned to fall into that position. So I think even people who are new to the space, they get the whole kind of Bitcoin only thing, but they're still a little bit vulnerable to some of these scams out there because they may not entirely get the why it's Bitcoin only. But anyway, so I was looking at stuff, and I just wanted, especially when I started becoming a maximalist, I wanted art that kind of reflected everything that was being achieved in the Bitcoin space, and I wanted cool Bitcoin stuff. And when I went to kind of the marketplace to see what people were doing, like there wasn't really much going on that I thought was kind of authentic. I thought a lot of it was pretty gimmicky, which is fine. But I definitely saw like a gap in the space for really good art. And I was already making and selling internationally large format paintings and lots of other kind of cool stuff. And I thought, man, why not like try playing around with some Bitcoin things? So I was making sort of collages like in the same format that my big paintings are, the big ones of the girls. I don't know if you've seen them.
I have.
But yeah.
Fire, by the way, amazing.
Thank you. So I just started messing around, and then it kind of like crypto graffiti was, or cryptograffiti, right?
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah.
I love it so much. When he told me that for the first time, he was like, "Bad name, I know." But anyway, like he was a major influence to me because he was coming from a fine art sort of background and making some really cool stuff. And like it wasn't, not all of it was my kind of style of work, but it showed me that like, oh, like the community is like the Bitcoin people are willing to pay for art, which I kind of thought in the beginning that it like art would be sort of the last thing that Bitcoiners would kind of want to pay for, in a way, because it is kind of it's definitely the most luxurious item that you can acquire, even more luxurious even than, things like Rolex or Audemars or things like that, because it's, the watch is still like a mechanical device with massive amount of engineering that, tells the time or tells the other stuff. And, paintings are just kind of, they don't really do much other than like affect your mental or your state, right? So seeing crypto graffiti success in the space really kind of encouraged me to take it a little bit more seriously. And then kind of around the same time, Dave Bradley and Francis Pouliot were making, kind of putting all the pieces together to create Bull Bitcoin. And so I got involved in that process, and they founded the company, and I was just kind of right place, right time to just start making cool stuff for Bitcoin. and cool stuff for Bull, and kind of pull together sort of brand identity and just make a whole bunch of cool merch for Bull and just start creating in the Bitcoin world. But yeah, so like being unique stuff, I think like that's just, like I was an artist and a creator and a designer first, like well before Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin just kind of gave me something to paint about in a way, right? Like these sorts of things are just lying around like incomplete boards all over the place.
What's your turnaround on one of those? Like from conception to actually that stage that you just showed me right there. How long does that take you?
Man, well, like I should probably get a hard answer to this question because I get it asked the most.
Sure.
But hours and hours and hours. Like I work on, like there's a stack right here of there's 7 right here,
Okay.
and all of them are incomplete. So it's hard to measure them because I work on them and then things got to dry, and then I work on them more and things got to dry, and I'm working on the others. And so I almost need to like attach a stopwatch to one or something, but like dozens minimum to like hundreds of hours for like the full power guys like this. So
Yeah. No, I love that. I love how you were, explaining how, having that valuable good in art, because I mean, I come from hip hop culture, and, Jay-Z most recently talked about how, I'm going to paraphrase it, so it's going to sound like shit, but how basically he's going to have that painting that's worth 2 million, a few years is going to be worth 4 million, and then eventually he's going to give that to his children. Now, the fiat value of that was irrelevant to me, but the message behind, this painting can only exist one time or so many amount of times, depending on how many, the artist decide to make. And with that, value accrues into that. Right. And then eventually, a Picasso is a great example, right? You can just sell that for whatever it's worth. And it wasn't that at the time of painting it, Picasso was worth that. It's the legacy that's worth it. Would you agree with that, or am I completely off base on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's purely supply and demand. So, okay. The price is low when there's low demand, and the price is high when there's high demand. So I think it comes entirely down to the artist's story and the artist's brand and what the artist's work represents. And that's why I believe that my work and the work of other high-level artists in the space is going to be worth a huge amount, specifically original works, because this is the first era of I guess the genre of Bitcoin artwork. That art has never existed before that has messages that are so clear and that are so important as kind of the messages being broadcast in Bitcoin creations. Mm-hmm. So I think just like, okay, if we look over, Bitcoin number go up over X amount of time, and also, even if like, who knows what's going to happen in the future? Like, even if completely unlikely, but Bitcoin were to fail in some regard, like this, it's done now. Like we've broken sort of the monetary, we solved the monetary problem for civilizations. And no matter what happens, this is the first successful implementation of it. And, it'd be awesome if it's the last. Who knows what's going to happen? But either way, like this time period of the last 10 years, the next 10 years, the next 50 years is like day zero for a civilization that has the opportunity to partake in the hardest, money standard that we've ever seen. So I think no matter what, over the next kind of X amount of years, like this is like really the pioneer age for all of this. And I think all work that's created in this time will have massive, massive value going forward into generations. Because, I think maybe if you're not like it's interesting, like some people who have collected my work, like they do not make very much money at all. Like when they buy something from me, it's like a major deal, and it's a huge investment. And then other guys are very successful in whether it's in Bitcoin or in their fiat ventures, and acquiring a MADEX is less of a big deal for them. But I mean, it's still like you say, it's an asset that the people who really understand what I'm doing, what I'm trying to achieve here, and that can see that like, okay, like my mission is basically Banksy level and beyond, or die trying with the work. And like a lot of Bitcoin specific work, but also just artwork in general. Like I don't want to be the Bitcoin artist. I just want to be a very high level artist that also creates Bitcoin artwork. And then also, you know, obviously the supporters in the Bitcoin space, the bigger that I'm able to get with the art, with the brand, the louder my signal gets, and then thus also the louder Bitcoin's signal gets. So yeah, I think that like, even so for myself, it's like being early on something, like being early on Picasso, to buy my work. And, you know, it's like, and even for other artists that are already of extremely high value, like no matter what, like if somebody wants a Basquiat, there's only so many, like he's dead, you know, and eventually I'll be dead, and there will only be so much original artwork that I touched and that I have. And that's where I think that like art is hugely valuable for passing on to future generations, especially if you know, the creator, myself, if I'm able to reach like a very high signal strength, because, you know, let's say in my lifetime I create 500 full-size original paintings. You know, like there's many more than 500 Bitcoiners. And, you know, let's say if, you know, my goal is to have MADEX story tied, you know, into the origins of Bitcoin signal broadcast. And that's kind of like that's what my cause is. So if you know, if 1,000 Bitcoiners decide they want the 500 pieces, then you have that supply and demand equation. If 1 million Bitcoiners decide they want those 500 pieces, you know, and then outside of Bitcoin, if there's 1 million people who aren't even Bitcoiners that are from whatever other walks of life, that they decide they want the paintings as well. Like I have a hard supply cap for sure, which is, it's, you know, I think it'll be probably in my entire life, maybe like 500 giant original paintings, like over the next 50 years, I think. Even that's optimistic. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's overshot. Like it might only be like 30. I don't know. You know, and then smaller stuff there will be more of, and then things that I'm able to kind of produce, you know, more of without focusing as much of my time. There will be more of that stuff. But, you know, the market will reflect the pricing accordingly. But yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating to think about. Yeah, just that example right there. If there's, you know, 1 million Bitcoiners, there's only 500 pieces. You know, maybe they may not know MADEX now, but when they do know MADEX, it could be too late. Those 500 are gone, or they're gonna have to pay an exorbitant price to be able to get a MADEX.
Yeah, that's basically the plan. And then like even everything I'm building around, like the infrastructure I'm building out currently, is like I love making the paintings, and you know, but they're huge, they're massively time consuming. I don't have a big enough brand to get a return on them selling them. Like even like I have, you know, one listed at like, you know, 30K on the site right now. I'm actually going to bump that one because I don't actually I decided I don't want to sell it. But I have, you know, some other ones, and it's like, you know, like that one particular painting I'm talking about took me like 4 years.
Wow.
So it's like, oh my God, like 30 grand. But it's like, no, you know, took a long time to make it. And so what I'm doing is like spreading out into other stuff where I'm like, okay, like my goal is to build a brand around MADEX. So and I need, you know, cash flow to grow the brand and to create videos and to produce signal and to get more tools in the studio and hire more staff and things like that. So I'm going down into products. Like right now, my next launch, I got a whole bunch of just basic merch stuff that's coming that I'm pretty excited about. I did like a drop ship for merch, like when I first started. That was like, if anyone bought something from that, like just, you gotta send me a message on Twitter or an email so I can give you like like 30% off this next launch because that stuff was just not very good. And then it took me I went through fucking 4 companies until I finally found a guy who was capable of sort of delivering the standard of quality I wanted for the work. So I finally got orders coming in. I'm going to be, pushing out the merch. I'm putting a lot of energy into stickers and sticker designs and decals just for signal strength, signal broadcast. And I got a whole bunch of jewelry stuff in the works that I'm designing in partnership with a company based out of Istanbul. And so I'm MADEX is kind of, I guess, it's people call me an artist and I refer to myself as an artist sometimes, but I'm not really an artist. I'm a designer. And the way I'm building MADEX is much closer to a fashion house than sort of an artist being oh, it's my name and it's my art and I'm selling it. It's I'm trying to build a full a product brand that creates high quality products that are from attire and clothing to actual functional things. I was making cutting boards. I'm working on these knife sheaths right now for storing Japanese knives in that are this beautiful leather all rolled up and stamped with kind of Bitcoin stuff and my MADEX script lines and things like that. And just a long list of products that I'm slowly working on. And it's basically just stuff that I use in my life that I'm pissed off about, that I can't find something that's good that suit. First time, as soon as I need something, I'll go look at what's available on Amazon. I'll go look at what's available in some local stores. I'll go look at what's available on Etsy. And maybe a little bit of internet browsing, but it's really difficult for me to find stuff that I like. And so, as I grow, and as I get more, capital invested into MADEX through people, purchasing my art, it's almost like they're buying shares by owning a MADEX painting. You have a piece of me. The more I'll be, working on creating kind of different products and whatever. And then the plan is basically to slow down the art production as much as possible. So stuff like this in the background, maybe I'm only making 5 or 6 of those a year. Whereas right now, the only thing I'm really selling is art. So I'm producing a lot of artwork. And the goal, what I want the most is the people who are buying my work today. You're by buying a MADEX right now, it's you're betting on my ability to succeed with how I want to build out this brand. And I want to make sure kind of I am honoring those early buyers, early investors that and keep my supply as low as I possibly can. At one point before the bear market really hit hard, I wasn't even going to do prints at all or anything, no editions, no prints. But in the bear market, sales just stopped immediately. As soon as we dropped below a certain point, I was selling multiple pieces a day, and then now I'm still on catch up and commissions, trying to get through all these commissions I got. But the main cash flow kind of slowed right down. So I had to start making kind of smaller products, making cheaper products. And then finally I said, fuck it. I got to do some print editions. I'm getting asked for them all of the time. I got overhead with staff and studio and all this. So I'm hey, we're going to do some runs of prints and stuff in the meantime. But as soon as the bull market comes back, the prints are going away. So, I mean, maybe ironically, prints will end up being worth a lot because I'm not going to make very many, but that's the plan, is just keep the art as scarce as I possibly can. I don't want to ever have more than, a couple hundred of anything going out of the studio, even down to the jewelry stuff, the rings that I'm doing are all limited. The pendants, the earrings, everything that's coming together is all super, super limited. And then even if there's even if I make more of something, because obviously I also at the same time have to keep, the business going, there will always be changes made so that if you got something today, it'll be different than whatever is sold kind of a year from now. So yeah, because I mean, those guys who are buying art from me now, it's that I want a return for them that'll outperform Bitcoin because like I owe them my life in a way. Like my ability to keep going and keep making stuff and producing and growing is entirely from those primary sales, and also even just the small stuff right now. Like, you know, buying a $15 sticker pack at this moment helps, right?
Yeah.
And you know, that infrastructure, like that I'm able to build now from these primary sales is gonna be what makes like the paintings worth. You know, my goal is in 5 years to have the full originals that you know are the most time consuming and the most crazy, going out at least 100,000 like each, and only doing like maybe three a year, you know, like 3-5 a year ish, right? Just depending on how they are completed. But yeah, I mean, we all understand scarcity being in Bitcoin. So I'm just trying to kind of manage all the stuff that I'm able to create. And I want everyone who has something from MADEX to just have something that is unique to them and then special to them. Even the prints going out right now, like I'm like, because I feel weird about like selling the prints, I'm still like, I'm adding so much detail to them on the backsides and kind of trying to do things to make each one like completely unique, even though they're like numbered prints. But yeah, so that's kind of like the infrastructure plan. And I guess like my goal with kind of having MADEX art be an investment that's worthwhile. And you know, selling to a Bitcoin community 100%, I'm competing with Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. No, I fucking love it, man. All that sounds so on point. And I love how it closely ties into, like you said, the properties of Bitcoin that we already understand, supply cap, and the demand there, but also the getting in early, right? Like most Bitcoiners, especially now, we're in early, and we will hopefully, if all things play out the way they're supposed to, you know, reap the benefits of being in early. And similar to your work, you have this master vision plan that you just laid out here. And if we can get in early to that plan, you know, we will reap the benefits just because of your hustle, your proof of work, and what you got planned. And I think it's phenomenal. If I take a step back, and you said you're kind of in this world, well, I don't know if it's two hats or in two different scenarios where people know you as an artist, but you're more of a designer. Do you approach design work the same way you approach artwork, or are those two different approaches?
Well, I think they're the same approach. It's basically I'm just taking elements that I know how to work with and then kind of pushing them all together. I think it's definitely like the same philosophies. Just give me 1 sec here. I got this guy dropping in.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Yeah, like, okay. I guess you could edit that part. I'll just get started here.
You good? Yeah.
Oh, wait a second. Yeah, so the design process and the artistic process are fairly similar. I mean, I know how to use a bunch of different tools, and I have a bunch of different concepts, and I kind of just work to puzzle piece them together in a way that I think looks good. So I want like the art to be the art and the designs to be, when you see it, like it looks very good to see. But then also when you go in closer and take a look closer, there's some details that are in there that you wouldn't see from afar. So it's visually appealing when you look at it from afar. It looks like a cool piece. And then when you get up close to it, you know, there's actually a lot of data and information and kind of cool components that kind of build out the whole work. But I mean, like they're basically the same to me. Like I don't really see the design work and the artwork. I'm attempting to accomplish the same goals, just using different mediums.
Gotcha. Makes total sense. Now, as for, and you know, you don't have to be completely transparent on this or not. As for, you know, as we know, Bitcoiners and Bitcoin commerce and being able to basically stimulate that economy of Bitcoiners, are you asking to be only paid in Bitcoin, or does it matter at this moment? And one day will you shift to just the Bitcoin standard?
Yeah, I mean, like I tried both in the beginning. Like I tried only accepting Bitcoin. When I first opened the store, I was only accepting fiat because I just didn't have a good system for accepting Bitcoin in place. And then thank gosh, BTC Pay server got built out. but I think with Bitcoin, like it's really hard, and especially bear markets, it's really, really hard to kind of get people to purchase the Bitcoin or purchase things with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And, but it's much easier for people to just, use a credit card and pay with fiat. So currently I'm taking both just because I need to. Eventually when I got to a certain level, like I would love to make it just strictly Bitcoin only. Like everything's like a balance right now between like growing the brand and then like also like having a business that survives and succeeds. So, I could be like, yeah, Bitcoin only, like, but at the same time, I'm just going to lose so many clients from that because my brand's not big enough yet. But once the brand's big enough, then I can make that change. And then it's like, okay, then even like finding art collectors in the fiat world, it's kind of like, well, if you want to buy his stuff, you have to use Bitcoin if you want to buy from him directly. So then they have to figure out how to get Bitcoin if they want to buy the work, So that could be pretty cool to do in the future. But right now, it's just not possible to, have a business running when you're selling artwork, right? Like the last thing I think that most people are looking to buy, the most luxurious over the top item, like we got this whole thing on Twitter going on where it's like sell your furniture. So like if that's what the culture is saying, like sell your furniture to get more Bitcoins, like no one's going to be buying my artwork. So I got to be targeting the fiat world. I got to be targeting collectors outside of Bitcoin. As much as I'm targeting people within Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, I feel that all too well. Different arena, not art, but I have a video company, a media company, and same exact thing. I mean, I use Zapwrite invoices. Shout out to John from Zapwrite, which basically just allows them to pay in Bitcoin or allows them to pay, with their credit card. And you're right, it's like we're not there yet. Like people just don't want to either use their Bitcoin or they just don't want to go look for the Bitcoin to pay for the service. Yeah, same here with this business. And like you said, growth. Like if I want to invest back into, having team members or better gear, better cameras, etc., I'm going to have to go and now liquidate that Bitcoin in order to go and then deal with the tax implications that come with that. So yeah, although I would love to say that I'm on a Bitcoin standard, and I don't think I've met a single person that's running a legit business that's on a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah, I mean, like it's majority a fiat world currently, so we still got to operate. I mean, it's possible. It's possible to run entirely on a Bitcoin standard, but you're just you're handicapping yourself in a lot of ways, and you're also going to just end up paying out premiums on a lot of ways, and where you're really going to get wrecked. Like one thing I definitely screwed up on was like as we started heading into a bull run, every sale I got, and at that time in the bull run, the majority of sales were Bitcoin. And at that time, I was just keeping it all in coins, right? So I was able to put together like a good amount of cash to ensure that MADEX would keep going and kind of succeed. And then, but I definitely should have done some sells at some point along the way to have like fiat reserves before the crash happened. Because then I like waited way too long, and then so sales drop off, and then Bitcoin tanks, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, in order to pay the rent and keep the lights on and make payroll, like I gotta move some coins, which sucked.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I think that was the first time I had like fairly good cash flow, like in that was mostly Bitcoin. Like beforehand, I think the psychology was different because the majority of my earnings were fiat, and so I was accumulating coins by purchasing with fiat. But at that time, like the coins are just coming in. I'm like, oh, this is great. There's no extra steps. I'm like, I'm never going to spend it ever, and then it kind of gets to the point where it's like, okay, well, do I want to expand or do I want to contract right now? And the last thing, like I've made it this far, like this March here will be my 10-year anniversary for working on Project MADEX. And, it's like I put this much time into it. I'm not gonna contract at this point. Like now's the expansion. So even though like it's rough, I know it's rough for everyone in the bear market. It's like better decisions, during the bull run could have definitely made this time a lot easier. And so yeah, like anyone out there that's running a business, make sure that like the next time we have a huge bull run, you got to remember that like so many people buying in a bull run are like it takes so long to understand what's going on with Bitcoin that they're all people that are going to sell. The faster that Bitcoin pumps up, I believe the faster it's going to crash down, because you just got too many people coming into the market that like don't understand what they're dealing with. And like every time we have a new floor, so like the price like jumps up each time. But when we go into one of these huge runs, definitely like if you're operating a business that's plugged into the fiat system, like take a bunch of cash off the table and like enough that you can ride out, say like a 5-year bear market again. Because it'll inevitably go down again at some point, like as people who don't know what they have, as soon as someone feels like they've made, like a 40% profit, they're going to sell. That's, some people it'll be 100%, they'll sell. Some people are going to sell at 20%. They made 20% on their money, they're going to dump. So we just got to remember that like we're so early on this that no matter what, it's going to be going up and up and down, and there's no like if you can just ride the waves and just make sure every time there's a bull run, you got a little bit of fiat savings. Every time there's a bull run, a little bit of fiat savings, and like it's a business can just operate completely normal. It's just kind of a different cycle than you would have just running purely on fiat.
Boy, I wish I had you about a year ago. I was one of those, just, get all the way up, video services, had a few people that were helping me out that I was paying them, and just went 100 into Bitcoin. I mean, I was paying them in fiat, but me 100 into Bitcoin. Yeah. Because, I'd like to think I'm a maxi, and then, it crashed down, and I couldn't afford to have them anymore. They're coming back around now, thankfully, because they're cool like that. And I own all my gear, so I didn't lose any of my gear or anything. But yeah, I got wrecked. I didn't have any cash reserves. My wife and I, with our kids, were in the process of moving down to Austin, and we just basically had to take out a bunch of loans and everything because of that, because I went 100 in, and I should have not. And I mean, I hear a lot of people still say it, like a good friend of mine's coworker, Sahil. It's like, oh, live just on Bitcoin. Just you don't need fiat. You could just, and I disagree wholeheartedly, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. Like if your stash is just so massive that you don't care about like having to spend, I don't know, like 15 coins in a year, and it just like doesn't make a dent to you. But like, I think for most people, like 15 coins is like a huge amount of money. Right. So like, it's awesome in theory, but we're just not there yet. And unless you have like I was on Ben's show the other day, and I was saying like, man, like if you're sad when we're going into a bear market, like it means you're fucking up somewhere. You got an income problem somewhere, right? Like all money problems are just income problems. They have nothing to do with anything else. Like if you could literally be the worst person with managing funds in the entire world, the worst person at like, you lose your stuff all the time or whatever, you're having to buy things or you're missing flights or, stuff like that. Like if you just have a fucking crazy income machine, it literally does not matter at all. Like if you're losing like 10 grand worth of shit every month, but you're making 50, like it doesn't matter at all. So It's like every financial problem you have is an income problem. And I think like, unless you're like really accumulating capital like crazy, you got like some business that, is always going to be doing well. I think booze businesses are great because they like, if times are bad, people are drinking. And if times are good, people are drinking,
100%.
It's like things like that, right? Like steel business, oil and gas. Oil's got its booms and stuff as well. But like, then you can probably like stack but you need a major income stream to be able to live entirely on Bitcoin. Because otherwise like the swings are just too much for the average person to be able to stomach, right?
Yeah. And I've tried to have that combo with a few people, but I think our life is different. You also, kids are into consideration. If you got kids, can't be living on the Bitcoin standard. Basically, depending on your living situation, that plays a lot into it as well. But you're right. If you have an excess amount of income coming in, then who the fuck cares? Just keep rolling, I guess, and you won't even notice the difference. Um, I want to ask you if in partner when it comes to partnerships, right? So I actually have one of the start nines that you put together.
Oh, awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I got one of those, and I didn't notice till a little while ago, but on the back of my cell phone, I actually have your buy Bitcoin and war sticker that lives
Amazing.
on the back of my
that's
phone.
a great
So
one. Yeah. That's a
yeah,
very good one.
so yeah, I love this one. It's amazing. I got it over at the comments. But you partnered up with Start Nine. How do you like think about when it comes to partnerships? Are you just excited to do them? Is it more of a bandwidth thing? How do you go into those situations?
Well, partnerships, I don't partner at all.
Okay.
This got to be, I guess, like, okay, I guess it's got to be like really, like my answer is no, basically,
Yeah.
for partnerships. Like Bull Bitcoin is my company. I owe everything I have in the space to it. Like Bull is the company, and I'm very happy there. I'm do well with, like, I don't really need any kind of major collabs. And like Start Nine, in my opinion, there's just three major components to a sovereign civilization. And for a long time, I was terrified about the third. So the first major component to a sovereign civilization and a sovereign individuals is money. That you have to have money that cannot be fucked with. You have to have the basis of trade fair. And so obviously that is now finally, for the first time in history, solved with Bitcoin. So we have Bitcoin to solve trade, to solve money. The next most important thing is we have to have the ability to defend ourselves. Individuals have to have the ability to defend ourselves, and groups of individuals have to. It cannot be something that is controlled by any state power. So we have that being taken down and spearheaded by the whole 3D printing, the 3D gun printing community, which 3DA, there's defense distributed, deterrence dispensed, control Q on Twitter. There's a whole world that is taking that on full speed ahead, and I think they're doing extremely well. You can 3D print machine guns now with just parts from a hardware store and printers. Like the tech is fully there. They're starting to find them in countries where there's the resistance going on, and it's in full development, full speed ahead. So I think that box is checked. Like, it's done. It's going to continue to get better. You can't stop the innovation. You can't control it. You can't stop the files from being shared. It's operating in the same way that Bitcoin is. There's decentralized file servers out there that are hosting these things. Anyone can get the information. Same as Bitcoin. So those first two most important things, like the money, can't, like, you got to be able to have fair business with people, and you got to be able to defend yourself. And then the final and most important one, in a way, but I think the other two need to come first. But the one that, if you didn't have it, like, you just be fighting all the time, is secure communications, secure comm, secure data. So I just wrap that in as just communications. And so for a long time, I was really worried about this because I've seen all kinds of projects going on out there that are attempting to do these sorts of things in a way, but like none of them are really Bitcoiner projects, and there's not really a demand for privacy. It's not like pop. It's not cool. Like, so many people watching this probably have TikTok on their phone. They have no idea. They haven't even read what that fucking app is doing to their phone. It's just rinsing all your data. Pretty much everything, like even just owning a smartphone, is fucking you over. I mean, that it can get more extreme and less extreme. But it's just such a giant thing to take on, and it's so difficult because you're talking about like cell networks, you're talking about satellites, you're talking about, you know, encryption, it's just so much infrastructure into it. And I just didn't really see anyone like that was like taking it on with principles, you know, like what I'd say like Bitcoin principles. And then when I found out about Start9 and started hearing what they were up to and looking into what they're attempting to do and what they're trying to build, I just realized that like, okay, like this is the next most important company in all of Bitcoin. Like that, what they are working on is like, we don't see it yet, but when the time comes, like this is like the final, you know, front in this whole thing where it's like secure communications, the ability to exchange information without a big brother involved. You know, they're just full speed ahead going for it. So like anyone watching this, if you believe in freedom, like go and buy a fucking embassy, go and buy the Embassy Pro, like buy some fucking merch, like support Start9 in some way. Like I'm not even paid to say that or anything. Like it's just the most fucking important thing, you know, for nodes being run and for just having your data, like where, you know, it's backed up in a place, all your files are with you. Like it's so dirty and disgusting to be relying on Apple and to be relying on Google and to be relying on these other hosting services. And, you know, it's difficult to use, definitely, because they're solving like a huge problem and they're a small team. So I wouldn't even say difficult. It's just, you got to like take the time to learn it. It's not super plug and play if you're not already familiar with tech. If you're already familiar with tech stuff, you know, and you've set up a node already and also those sorts of things, you'll be completely fine. But it's got a long way to go in terms of what mass adoption for it needs, and not even mass adoption, but just there are people out there who are not, you know, programmers or developers, not involved in Bitcoin, not involved in any of this stuff, but they want their information to be secure, and they want their communications to be private. And I think that in my opinion, like Start9 is just the front line of this, and that the reason I would put them there above all other companies that are trying to or claiming to try to work kind of in these sorts of areas is just like they are full-blown Bitcoin maximalists, and you know their hearts are in it, and they are using their own at great risk to themselves, building out this infrastructure that is critical for sovereignty.
Yeah. I've only been able to talk to Matt, but Matt's a great dude. And yeah, as soon as I talked to Matt and I got like the mission, I was like, oh, this is it right here. The only thing I'm asking, and it's not asking for because they're going to release it, clearing their addresses. Like Tor is great, but it's not great when it comes to certain things. And then, you know, one of my big selling points was, the node, of course, and all that. But having that private communication with my wife, right, and my family members is something that was extremely important to me. But unfortunately, it would require my wife to do a bunch of stuff that she's just not willing to do, right? To get Tor to run on her phone and be able to, especially on an Apple device where you kind of have to like run an app on top of an app to kind of get it going. Now, I'm down, but she's not down, and there's nothing that I could do. But I was talking to Matt, and he's like, hey, somewhere in early this year, we're going to release ClearNet addresses. And he's like, and that's going to really solve this problem for the majority of the people. Anyways, super bullish on them. So that partnership, if I'm going to put it in quotations, is just because you really believed in their mission. That's what it sounds like?
Yeah, that entirely that. And then, you know, what happened, I brought a film crew down with me when I did the boxes. So I got like, I got a million things going on, but I'm going to get this edit put together that kind of tells the story of everything that happened. But basically, so the boxes that Start9 had, so they were ready for the release of the Embassy Pro. And a week before the ship date, everything showed up, and I guess like the printing company screwed up the boxes. So the boxes, none of the boxes had the proper graphics that they were supposed to have on them for the release of the Embassy Pro. And Matt just phoned me and was like, hey, this is going to sound completely crazy, but can you get on a plane and fly to this location that these boxes are at, and paint them?
That's
why.
why.
Like, the last thing we want to do is put fucking stickers on these boxes. And I was like, yeah, man, I fucking totally agree. And it was a lot. And I believe in Star 9. So and obviously it's great exposure for me for MADEX. It just fit. The alignment was perfect. And I figured that like everyone who received one of the Embassy Pros with the artwork on it would, at least be interested in kind of what I'm up to. So I headed down there and lined up all the boxes on the beach, painted them in the sand. That's why some of them have that grit and stuff. And then I went. There was 118 of them, and in total. And the first day I was only able to get in there for 2 days. I only had 2 days before the launch. And I flew in and I got some kind of food poisoning, like as soon as I got there.
Fuck.
And it was absolutely brutal, man. It just absolutely rocked me. So I lost like so much time. So day one, I'm like trying to get through them. And I'm so like, I'm like trying to make my plan of what I'm going to do and like getting the codings done. And I'm feeling sick. And like, I'm like, man, like I got to get this done. Like I'm so messed up. And then finally I was like, hey, I just got to stop. I got to deal with this. I got to heal up and then like dive back into it. And like, hopefully I'll be okay. Otherwise, like, I don't know what to do. So I was like, worst case, they'll just be like blank color. Like they'll just be black, like just blank on the top. Right. But then lucky enough, like I woke up the next morning and I felt like 1,000,000%, 100% good to go. And so I just sat down and I just fucking did them all, man. I was working till like 4 a.m. or something till the night. And like, so I feel a little like I would really wish I didn't lose that day because they all would have been much better. Because, when you do like 118 in a row, one after the other, by the time you get to like the 80th one, like, everything hurts. I'm like confused about what I'm even doing. Like I'm just trying to pull it off. But, I made sure they were all unique and, all numbered and signed and all that. So
yeah. Did you go in with these designs as like just freestyling on the boxes, or was it like you had something in mind that you wanted to kind of stick consistent to when it comes to the design?
I had something I wanted it in mind, but like pretty much all my original plans just got dominated because I got sick that first day. And so I the next day it was literally just go for it. I don't know.
Get it done. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So some of them, unfortunately, like some are better than the others, and but it's all they're all pieces of that story, and I think there was only 100 released, so there will only be 100, and then the other one, and then 100 were released to people who bought online, and then I think the others were given to staff members and to other kind of key figures in the company. So.
Well, I love that story. It makes me just value this more. I don't even know if the viewers can see this because it's dark in this room, but that's the design I got. Yeah, it's pretty dark in here. It's not going to work.
Yeah,
but I love the design. And this is number 44 of 118. You got the block height in there, 765953. You got a message, thank you, Satoshi. You got your signature, your @ and then start 9. I love this thing, man. This thing is amazing.
That's awesome, man. It's so it was really cool when because it all happened so fast, right? Like Matt's like, can you get on a plane tomorrow? And I'm like, okay. And then I'm on the plane, and then I'm sick, and then I'm painting, like I'm like drinking Red Bulls and like drinking coffees and like trying to keep going, and then all of a sudden I'm like, back in the studio, like and then so it really started to hit me what had happened when people started posting them on Twitter. That was really awesome seeing those come out.
Yeah, the spontaneous nature of life, just getting up and doing it. This actually leads me to what we could close this out on this question, and this could be maybe the way you live life, maybe not. But I was listening to a small amount of Ben's episode when you were on Ben, and you brought up memento mori. Now I'm really big into Stoicism and Stoic philosophy. So as soon as I hear anybody mentioning any term from a Stoic, it kind of makes my head go, whoa, okay. So are you into Stoicism? Is that the way you determine your life and kind of how you run through things? Or was that just a random thought that you brought up in the moment?
No, that Stoicism is definitely a foundation to who I've kind of become as a person, for sure. It's definitely, as a man, it's the best. Like, everything I can say, I can only speak to man because I am a man. I believe for men, it's like the most important concepts that really exist. As it's so easy to kind of get swept away in everything that's going on, and just the Stoicism to me is kind of focus on what matters, remember what's important. And I think like meditations was probably the most impactful book that I've ever read in terms of understanding what it is to be human and civilizations. A lot of what was said in the book was excellent, but the biggest thing I got from it is, it was written in like 180 or something like that. And nothing's changed. That was the first piece of text that I went through where I was like, wow, like, we're here and we think we're so advanced in this crazy civilization and all this stuff, but nothing's changed in terms of our psychologies and the way we operate, and, the way, we're not much time has passed since that was written. It seems like it was so long ago, but I guess in the eyes of the universe, it's only moments ago. And that kind of gave a lot of perspective to me on everything that's sort of going on. And it also kind of brought me in touch with my ancestry and my, my family history, and just sort of a greater respect for stories from the past. And I think that in turn, like, brought a greater understanding of, how definitely improved my artwork, improved my creative work, improved my design work, and also kind of grounded me in, what it is to be human in a way that I can't really sort of explain, right?
Yeah.
Paper stamps will help a lot with that, but.
Yeah, no, I understand wholeheartedly. That's why when I heard you say most people don't go there unless they have read Stoicism or practiced Stoicism. It's much harder in practice than it is reading, of course. But I do agree with, I think it was somebody, Tim Ferriss probably, who called it the operating system of life. I highly agree with that. I walk around with meditations in my backpack every single day. Doesn't mean I read it every day, but it's just a nice fallback for me to, calm myself in day-to-day life. I got everything that you just explained there as well. But then, just from a Marcus perspective, I was like, this is a person that literally had the world at his fingertips, could have really done anything, could have really lived it however he wanted to live it, and decided to live it in this fashion, which is selfless and for people, for humans, for society, which I think is fascinating considering maybe 90% of people in his position at his time were tyrants, right? And be able to write that to himself, right? And not knowing that this would be exposed to you, and people thousands of years later. I think I've always been fascinated by that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's selfless. I would say like it was selfish in a way that like he was just very wise, and it was kind of I think that a lot of the things that especially tyrants and whatnot, they tend to fall into it out of immaturities, really, right?
Yeah.
And ego issues and things like that. I think that he did exactly what he wanted to do and what he believed was important. from that regard, like I don't really see it as selfless, but I'm deep in that whole Ayn Rand school of thought, where I think the most important thing we have is to be selfish and to take care of ourselves. But it's very nuanced to explain, because obviously, what it means is that you want to do the things that fulfill you the most as priority, and you don't want to be living your life for somebody else, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, great interpretation. All right, MADEX, anything that we didn't talk about that you want to bring up?
No, I think that was great. I enjoyed that. I mean, like, I can really talk a lot. I can ramble on about all sorts of stuff for all sorts of time. So I really like how kind of concise this all was. If you're in Canada and you're listening, unfortunately, we're working on international expansion at Bull Bitcoin right now, but it's takes a while. It's a lot of moving parts. Currently, we're only available in Canada. So if you're in Canada, definitely check it out. You'll quickly find out why we're the greatest Bitcoin company, just from working with our services and using our platform. So definitely head to Bull Bitcoin, and there's if you're Canadian, you can join our mission program, which you can basically just earn a commissions for onboarding other Canadians. We wanted to make a program where, like, you as a Canadian who cares about Bitcoin could earn like a full-time income or a part-time income by onboarding people in Canada. So that's kind of my Bull stuff. We're working on a merch store. It's just happening slowly. I'm going to have a bunch of stuff pretty soon here. For now, the next big thing I got coming from MADEX is clothing drop, which will include some Bull Bitcoin stuff. So madex.art, and I'm at SpaceBull on Twitter.
Yeah, give me a second. I got a Bull Bitcoin hat right here. We didn't even talk about it, but
yeah, awesome.
Did you create the Bull logo?
Yeah. Not that variation. So the original one, I've created the new logo, and I created that one. The very first one that was ever done was done by a different designer. I wasn't involved in the branding process at that point in time, because it was just kind of it was really the first iteration of it.
Oh, so I got to step my game up then.
We just never really changed it.
Yeah, I got to get the MADEX version then.
Yeah, well, that's technically a MADEX version. Like, I edited that design of it, but we have a new logo that is very awesome, and that one's full power MADEX. So
cool. Then that's the one I got to upgrade to then.
Yeah.
Cool, MADEX. This was an awesome conversation, man. Once again, I don't know, are you ever planning on coming to Austin, man? It would be awesome if you'd come into town.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be there next year, but I'll definitely be there the following year. Sorry, not next year, this year. But if I'm ever in town, just for some reason, like I'm delivering work to a client or something, yeah, I'll definitely hit you up. Hit
me up. We'll have a steak, have some beer, maybe do this in person. I usually record out of TFTC studios, but I'm home today because the weather sucks ass.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm down for that. I would love to do an in-person one. So
sweet. MADEX, I appreciate you. Folks, check out all of MADEX's work. It's incredible. I'm not just saying that because he's here. I really am fascinated by what MADEX is doing. Check out Bull Bitcoin. Check out everything that's associated with MADEX. Get one of these. Actually, I think you can't get one of these embassy suites anymore, right? I think those are already gone. But you lost it. But check out everything MADEX is doing. We appreciate y'all as always. You can catch us on anything that's value for value, podcasting 2.0. Fountain is the best way, Breeze is the best way, but there's a bunch of different ways. We just talked to Evan from Zeus, and he got Echo. So many different ways to contribute to the show. Remember, this is completely audience funded. We don't take ad money, so we can say whatever the fuck we want to say during these shows. And that's the whole point. That's the mission here. If you are on the legacy outlets, Spotify, Apple, all that stuff, I don't know what you're waiting for to get over on the Bitcoin standard of media, but hopefully listening to these episodes will get you a little bit more bullish on doing that and moving over to, let's say, a Bitcoin TV instead of YouTube. As always, we appreciate y'all. MADEX, one more time. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man. You're welcome. Cheers.
Later, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.